Got a response from the bishop. Says, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you letting me know your feelings. I will talk to Dave about this so it doesn't happen again. Bishop Packard. Which seems to be a non-response. Cover your ass to give the very least amount of a response at all. Because if you give no response, and there's video from over a year ago where I document this happening, and then now here it's happening again, and I address the guy that's doing it right in front of the bishop, and then I send him an email with the video from over a year ago. This is a recurring pattern of behavior. If you don't address the issue, you're complicit. An accomplice after the fact. Without admitting any wrongdoing at all, he responded with the very least amount of words possible. Using words like, I appreciate you telling me your feelings, not showing me what's happening, telling me your feelings. And I will talk to him so it doesn't happen again. Like tell him you need to refine and be a little more slick about what you do, because that type of behavior, if he's doing that on me, a full-grown man, that is the same pathological behavior pattern that pedophiles do to groom children. If he's doing it on me, a full-grown man, I'm sure he does it on the, the new recruits and the young kids and the 18-year-old missionaries, just to show them brotherly love. If I walked up to a stranger in the grocery store and said, hi, my name's Jeff, and started rubbing a woman on her back, she'd be like, get the hell off me. Is there cameras in here? I'm pressing sexual assault charges. That's not sexual harassment. Harassment is unwanted comments. Assault is unwanted touching. Just because I didn't grab her ass or rub her boobs, it was the lower back, doesn't make it not sexual assault in the eyes of the law. So now we're going to talk about truth. Because that's just some douchebag, one guy getting handsy. It's about this big in comparison to the giant truth that is all of these. And I commented to someone in the comment section, because the idea has crossed my mind before, that me offering these to them may be beyond a white elephant gift. It's more like a horse head on your front porch. Yeah, these are all for you. All of this, just for you. Yeah, free of charge. You've earned it. Just for who you are. It's all for you. Put yourself in the position of a religious leader, particularly one who maybe sweeps things under the rugs and does not address issues, but instead tells the perpetrator how to make sure it doesn't happen again, because this guy's got you red-handed twice, a year and a half apart. That's a pattern of behavior, of pathological behavior. Put yourself in the position of a religious leader of an institution that's got a lot of skeletons in their closet. Someone like me rounds this stuff up, says, yeah, the spirit that led me to do this over the last few years wants me to give this to you. Yeah, it's just free. Here, it's all for you. Yep, all of this. It's all for you. That might be a bit like a horse head on your front porch. You've been served with a notice, a summons to appear, that there will be an audit. Bring all your records. Oh, that's right, you don't have to. The Akashic records have everything you've ever done or failed to do in the light of all the evidence indicating you should have acted in such a way, but instead you say, thanks for telling me your feelings. I'll tell him to make sure it doesn't happen again. What, to the next guy? So the next guy, you need to only prey on young people that aren't as willing and able to speak this truth. You'll just tell him so it doesn't happen again. You'll reveal to the perpetrator his flaw in his delivery and where he made himself vulnerable, and the church as an institution, because now as a bishop, when he told me in front of you to stop touching him, and he's got a video from over a year ago declaring you, identifying you by name as doing the exact thing you were doing when I walked up, that implicates me as the bishop and the institution of the church. He's got us red-handed here, Dave. You mean that kind of talk to him to make sure it doesn't happen again? Because in the spirit of truth, they are not and will not display this for the same reason as everyone else who chooses to conceal this truth, to preserve their own power and authority. Because they're not in the spirit of truth. They're more into preserving and perpetuating their own power and authority over the minds of those people. If they were into truth, because now we have Bishop Schultz, Bishop Packer. Bishop Schultz is the one that sat right next to me, said, "Hey, I see that piece up in your windows looking pretty sharp." When I said, "Oh, well, yeah, interesting you should say that. I'm here to make an offer to Bishop Packer to donate them to the church." "Oh, huh." So Bishop Schultz, Bishop Packard, and Bob Bailey, all of them are very well aware of what it is I do. And they have been for a while. Yet none of them are going to show this truth to their congregation. If they were truly in the spirit of truth, they would say, "Hey, I'd like you to bring all your pieces down for a presentation, even if you don't want to donate them to the church. Maybe we can bring them all down and put them in the auditorium and get some people, we can make a presentation. And maybe you tell us everything you know, and then we'll relay it to our congregation, because we don't want you going off script and talking all that crazy stuff." But if they were truly in the spirit of truth, they would show this truth that's ginormous compared to the truth of that little guy, that little weasel getting handsy. But they're going to respond to that truth and not respond to this. They're not in the spirit of truth and full disclosure. They're in the spirit of preserving and perpetuating their own power and authority. Because if people of the congregation knew what time it is and what's really going down, they wouldn't seek the authorities' advice. They would know this is beyond anything the bishop has any control over. He does not have any understanding of this. He has no power and authority over this. This is being done with people that got firepower far greater than the bishop and all of his men. And all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So you don't want the people knowing, or there goes my power and authority. They won't consult me on anything and everything they do. "Well, what do you think we should do about this?" "I don't know. Let's ask the bishop, who would then ask the stake presidency, who would then ask the living prophet of the church." None of them are going to reveal any of this, because it would undermine their own power and authority in the minds of the people who they like to keep that control over. Mind control. So that's why they will not and have not and never will present this truth to their people. And that's why they don't want me to donate this to them, because then there's proof that it's in their hands and that they're concealing and suppressing that truth. That's why if they accept this gift, there's proof that they have all this truth that they're in possession of and concealing from the people. And at that point, if I tell people in the neighborhood, I make another collection of these and go put them out on the front lawn with my fire lamps. I got a few different fire lamps, like this one, along with the bulbs that I put inside of that 10-foot piece. So I could go make a display anywhere where there's going to be people, right down on Main Street when there's a fair or an activity going on, the farmer's market. And I go set up my presentation along with free tours of the plasma-fired Promethean forest, business cards. So here, you provide the transportation, I'll be your tour guide. I'll take you right here to Diamond Fork. It's about a 7-minute drive away. And I'll show you millions, not hundreds, not thousands, millions of plasma-fired trees. And then I say, "Oh yeah, the bishop and all of his men, they're in possession of 30 of these pieces that I donated to the church." "Oh, what, they haven't told you?" "Oh, they're keeping you in the dark?" "Oh, they're suppressing this truth to keep it from you?" "Oh, that's probably just to preserve their own power and authority in the minds of the sheeple who they call their flock, who they declare themselves the shepherd of." Yeah, they don't want you having access to this kind of truth. Oh, they'll respond to that little minuscule fact about that little handsy weasel, Dave Anderson. but they're going to leave this on the back burner for as long as they can, prolong it, just not respond, because that puts them in a predicament. They are into the suppression of truth. They don't want people to know and have access to this, which shows what time it is, and that the powers and authorities who can draw down fire from heaven are not working with them. See, because this one guy can also show you the sun tunnel, which when I took that video, wiped out my channel, the whole channel. 555 subscribers and about 100 videos just got wiped. And then the next day they gave me access to the channel again, said, oh, upon review, we found that there is no violation of community terms of service and guidelines. I still have the still frame images from that video that show the sun opening up and craft transiting through this portal. Magnetic flux lines breaking around the sun, and then the bands, the plasma bands around the sun. That same guy that can show you the truth about the plasma fires all around you and the sun tunnel opening up and the four craft transiting through it also has a video from right here in Pleasant Grove where you can see 16 airborne little black dots coming in and out of view simultaneously. One that's there present the whole time, but all the ones around it coming in and out of view simultaneously, like they're all on the same cloaking device. And from that video that he took himself right here in Pleasant Grove, he has an example of other similar craft above Mr. MB3 in the Woodbury fire, above Joe Imbriano in the over an air base in California. So those black dot craft are just as real as the sun tunnel and just as real as the plasma fire. Oh, and that same guy, that one guy, can also show you airborne aircraft carrier from an image that he took in a Santilli telescope and just zoomed in with his camera, opened it up, hit the zoom, and ran the contrast, and hit the zoom and ran the contrast, and can show you triangular craft part 2 by 2 by 2, which, by the way, last night I watched 7 of them fly overhead. Silently. Completely silent. The first one had so many flickering lights on the bottom that it was lighting up the surface area of the craft in between the lights. So that one guy can show you airborne aircraft carrier with these triangular craft parked 2 by 2 by 2, and a bunch of them parked right at the end of a runway and a triangle, a runway and a triangle, a runway and a triangle. And when zooming in on these triangles, show you that the back fins of them, each one of them have 4 fins coming off the back like our SR-72 Blackbirds. So if that one guy can show you this much truth that he's accumulated, all of which I accumulated before I even went to Missouri. On my way out to Missouri, the day I went to Missouri is when I took that video of the airborne, floating black dot craft in Pleasant Grove. The day before I left. Actually, it's the day that I left. I think it was that night that I left. So, in that short period of time, a few months between the time, I guess they wiped out my video because of the sun tunnel. Anyway, in a short amount of time, I accumulated all that truth. Anyone who's in the spirit of truth can see that this guy's got direct connect to a source of truth that is like a fountain that's just endless rivers of truth. And it just keeps on flowing through him. Why the hell would you consult this book of people who contacted the divine thousands of years ago, if any of that's true, when you have a living, real, live person who's showing you evidence like the moon and the stars that turn 90 degrees as they go over? Right now, the 3 kings of Orion's belt rise in the east at 4 a.m. As the months continue into the winter, those 3 kings will rise over the eastern horizon at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 1 a.m., midnight, 11 p.m., 10. Once they're rising over that eastern horizon at about 9 p.m., that's when we'll be able to watch them all night long and set on the western horizon around 4 a.m. 90 degrees off of the way they rose. Right now they're rising vertical. The 3 stars that are the belt of Orion rise over the eastern horizon at 4 a.m. vertically. And even though you can't see them during the day, because by the time they set on the other horizon, it's light outside, I can assure you they set horizontally, turned 90 degrees. A few months from now, when you can actually see them all through the night, they may be rising horizontally and then set vertically. They will turn 90 degrees. I've been watching this for a while now. The moon does the same thing, and you can see it every month when it's at half moon. It will either rise with a vertical light line on one horizon and set with a horizontal light line on the other horizon. I'm looking for my moon rock. Or vice versa. It will rise horizontal and set vertical. I don't see it right now, but I've gone over this enough time. They're not in the spirit of truth. Isn't that what they say Jesus is all about? Jesus is, the spirit of truth. For the same reason that the federal governments erased my channel over the sun tunnel, because that would undermine all of their power and authority over the minds of the people who go to them for all the answers and protection and are willing to give up all their freedoms and liberties in trade for security, and they will have and deserve neither. For the same reason of preserving and perpetuating their own power and authority in the minds of the people, no one's talking about the plasma fires. They keep it under wraps. They even tell the firefighters, this is a crime scene under investigation, which is what the firefighters told me. And I have that on video. It's a crime scene under investigation, so it's restricted area and you're not supposed to be here. Oh, okay, I'll take your word on that. But before I go, let me educate you as to what it is that I see here. Huge amounts of electricity coming up from the ground, burning all these fence posts from the inside out, etc., etc., etc. See you later, guys. Have a good day. 3 of them were sitting in this hotshot firefighter truck when they told me that, and I said, okay, I'll get on out of here then. But before I go, let me just tell you real quickly what I see here. Large amounts of electricity coming up through the ground, burning things from the inside out. Under this guise that it's a crime scene under investigation, so it's restricted area and you're not supposed to be here, sir. Under that same guise, we're not able to talk about any of the weird stuff that we see, and anyone who recognizes some weird stuff and asks questions, they're told by the boss. It's an investigation, and if you talk to any of your family and friends about it, you will be interfering with the investigation, and you will go to jail. So I suggest you keep all those things that you've seen that raise questions and make you realize these aren't normal fires. You keep all that to yourself. It's an ongoing investigation, and if you talk to anyone about the facts or the details of what you've seen, you're interfering with the investigation, because the bad guys, the criminals, might get wind of the details and be able to change their story accordingly because of the details that you let slip out of the bag. It's under the guise of this investigation that they keep the lid on it. The reason they keep the lid on it is to preserve and perpetuate their own power and authority into the future. Because the people that they have mind control over would suddenly say, the bishop don't know shit about this, and this is way out of his control. This is out of his league. He has no power and authority to tell you this or that. He's as ignorant about this as anybody, except for maybe this Jeff guy over here, who's shown us the plasma fires, the sun tunnel, the black dot craft floating in the sky, the airborne aircraft carrier up there, the moon turning 90 degrees every night, which kind of makes that whole spinning ball solar system either completely incorrect or very incomplete. Because if we're on a spinning ball, and I'm on the outside of this spinning ball, and I'm turning around, and that's what we see is the stars and the moon going over at night, and they turn 90 degrees, that means this spinning ball that's going around this axis, as it passes the moon, or the 3 kings of Orion's belt, and I'm on the surface of this ball, and I see the moon turn, and the stars turn 90 degrees as I pass them, that means the axis of this ball that I'm spinning on must be going like that. And that is also why you see them rise in the east and then come over here and set in the north or the south. Either way, I noticed this one night when the sun set out my driver window and rose out my windshield. I woke up in the morning and realized, wait a minute, the sun set over there out my driver window. It should rise over there out my passenger window. Instead, it sets over there out my driver window and comes up here in front of my windshield. Just off of 90 degrees, maybe 100 degrees. It should be 180. It's like 110. That means this spinning ball, here's the axis, and we're on the spinning ball, right? We're on the spinning ball, and here's the axis. And for you to go past the moon, my head would be the moon, and see it tilt 90 degrees, that means the earth would have to be tilting 90 degrees, which kind of makes sense when you see the moon come up vertical light line, and it doesn't go straight over and turn like this. It comes up and then drops off to the side. And that's why it makes sense. It rises vertical, comes over here, and sets horizontal on this horizon. Not over here. Over here. So the moon doesn't even have to spin. That coincides with the idea that we're on a spinning ball, and the axis shifts 45 degrees over the course of one night. Rises over here, sets over here. That coincides with the idea that we are on a spinning ball, and as you pass and see the moon going overhead, the axis of the ball that you're spinning on goes like this. And that's why the moon doesn't rise here and set there. It comes up to the middle and then drops down to the side. Likewise with the three kings of Orion's belt. They come up here and then go down there. That's why they come up here vertical and then drop down there and look like they're landing on this horizon horizontal, but it's not 180 degrees from where they rose. So, me telling you all this plasma wood, it's all for you, might be more like an indictment, a summons to appear. You've been served. You're going to get audited. All this, yeah, the spirit that led me to get all this and gave me all this other truth says that these plasma-fired pieces are for you. Yeah, all for you. Just for being who you are. Yeah, free of charge. You've earned it. Put yourself in the shoes of those religious leaders that are keeping these truths from their people. It's much more like a horse head on your front porch. So now that it's harvest season, dual entendre there, they have farmers markets down on Main Street here in Springville like every Tuesday night. Because everyone's got all this extra produce. There's different people with different little shops. They sell beads and trinkets and any homemade stuff and honey and all this different stuff at this little farmer's market on Main Street. And I could tell them, I'm looking for a benefactor who might fund my operation and buy my future pieces. I don't know if I want to sell any of these. But obviously the church don't want them. He responded to my email about something that's this important. His handsy little buddy that he's got there, Dave Anderson. And he still hasn't responded to my email about something that's this important. The plasma fire all around us. He has no interest in talking about that. And if he receives my gift, well then he's in possession of this truth that it is therefore proven he is suppressing and keeping from the people. I've already offered. They don't want it. And that's why. Because they're more interested in preserving their own power and authority than perpetuating truth. Why? Because this truth ain't coming from them. It's coming from this guy. Along with all these other truths that dislodge the heliocentric model of the solar system. Because we would be having tidal waves every night if the earth was rocking back and forth 45 degrees, or there's something else about what's going on here that completely dislodges that whole laws of physics and the spinning ball earth. Along with the Son opening up, there's no way to the Father except through the Son, and Jesus Christ is a personification of the S-U-N, paralleling all of the other sun-worshipping religions that we're better than, and they're all evil sun worshippers. I have the images of the sun opening up and craft transiting through the sun. They want to preserve and perpetuate their own power and authority. I might just have to go free some minds and turn believers into knowers, which is what I said I was going to do when I first found my implant. Go right down here to the church. A lot of those believers believe that the mark of the beast is going to be implants. Microchip implant. They don't know for sure, but a lot of them kind of suspect. I can turn believers into knowers that this has been an ongoing human microchipping program for decades. My friend Dusty lives down the road. He's got one. My ex-girlfriend Amber lives in Orem, 10 minutes away. She's got one behind both ears, but a different shape. My sister, she's got one too, but it's a little bit deeper embedded, so you can't feel the shape the way you can with mine. That's a cylindrical object. Excuse me. So I might just have to go down and offer free tours of the plasma-fired Promethean forest, or a small fee for your tour guide. You provide transportation, I'll be your tour guide. $25 an hour. It'll only take us an hour to go down there and back. Or procurement of future pieces. You fund the operation. You can see what I produce here. I'll make a piece special for you. Consignment. You pay for it in advance. A benefactor who wants to fund my work, like an artist who's proven they got the artistry, but is a struggling artist, so they have to go work, drive truck, or do whatever else with their time to make their money. A benefactor comes along and says, no, here, I'll fund your operation. I'll pay you for whatever you're going to produce. So maybe I'll go find me a benefactor by setting up a display of my work. And if nothing else, I will awaken a lot of people and free their minds. They won't go ask the bishop, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Because he ain't going to talk about it. And they will know, so you're keeping these truths from us? These are the signs of the end times, and you're not talking about it? Wait a minute here. And they will start to question the true intentions of these people based on their authenticity, whether or not they are genuine and authentic and honest, straight shooters, or if they're concealing the truth from you and keeping the veil over your eyes. When that veil is being lifted, in all the ways that I just mentioned, from one guy, got all that truth in a year. But you're going to keep going to these organizations, because they have the ancient texts from thousands of years ago. There's truth in there somewhere. I can show you truth that's right above your head, that dislodges all these college textbooks about orbital physics. And there's a reason those colleges aren't showing you the moon turning 90 degrees every night and the stars, because it dislodges their power and authority on the subject matter. They are no longer an authority on the subject matter if they keep pitching physics and orbital physics the way they've been trained. And they show you what's actually in the sky that runs contrary to all of their degrees of certification that they are the authority on the subject matter. Not anymore. As soon as people realize that doesn't match up with this book. And you can judge them by their fruits. Concealment of this type of truth shows their true colors. I think I'm going to have to set me up a display. I'm taking a few months off, at least during this time of harvest season when the temperatures cool down and people hit the streets during the fall season because they know it's going to get cold soon, so they want to go out and enjoy some outdoor weather before it gets cold. I think I'm going to set me up a booth down there on Main Street. I don't know how much they cost. I could probably get someone to share their booth with me. Show them a couple of my pieces. Tell them I want to come set up a fire lamp. I'll bring the portable battery pack and a couple of these fire lamps and a few of my pieces. All my pieces. And come up with some sort of ability for people to purchase my next product. That way I don't have to get rid of my stock, which is my inventory, which is my display set. I can start taking orders for future product from people that are like, yeah, I'm in. What'll $1,000 get me? Because $1,000 is nothing compared to what you're seeing here, which is the end of the world as you know it, along with these other truths that compile and multiply the truth that this is the end of the world as you know it. Your money is worth nothing other than but for a short time. And you better jump in on the future economy where those dollar bills and magical Babylonian squares are going to be worth nothing real soon, as evidenced by the truth that's all around you that those Babylonian magicians are keeping from you because they don't want to dislodge their own power and authority. So I think it's time to go set up a display. I'm kind of like, obviously I was real conflicted over the Mormon church. I've been looking for people that might have had experiences like mine, who I could trade war stories with, who might be into the spirit of truth. Haven't been able to find them. Obviously I'm very conflicted. There was another video I saw where I come home, open up an envelope where I was going to tithe and donate to their church, and I pull out $100 bills and say, I can't give this to them anymore. My conscience won't let me. Not when this little old lady's up there saying, we are happiest when we are obedient to the requests of our leaders. They're an obedience cult. I overlooked a lot of that and even gave them excuses and engaged in my own cognitive dissonance in hopes that there might be someone in there. You know, like Jonah. When it was said, you find 10 good men, I'll spare this place. All right, 5 good men. All right, just one truther amongst the bunch who might say, hey, we should set this up for a display down there in the auditorium and then call the people of the ward down to come down and look, and you show them what you found, and then they can join you in the investigation. And within a month, man, we'll know so much more about this when we get put our heads together and get everyone investigating and looking into this truth and knowing what time it is. Nope, not a single person. So I'm going to have to go reach them myself. And guess what? They're not going to like that. In fact, they might do everything they can to stop me. Like send brother so-and-so in his patrol car down there to ask him, you got a permit? Yeah. That's why I haven't taken these to the local art museum, because everything around here is ran by the church. So I figured I'll go directly to the church. And when they are directly willing to conceal this truth and suppress it from the people, that shows you what I'm up against. Their true colors are about to be revealed. They're not in the spirit of truth. They're in the spirit of power and authority and preserving and perpetuating their own position as the shepherd over the flock. They don't want the flock to be independent, free-thinking, self-actualized sovereign beings. No, got to keep them penned and corralled in this mind control. So, that's where I stand now. You've been served. That's what that offering was, to prove that you don't want this truth. You want to suppress it. You want to keep those people in the dark. I'm about to let some light shine into that darkness. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Long you live and high you fly, but only if you ride the tide. Balanced on the biggest wave, or you're headed for an early grave.